How do you discern your personal seasons? Let me ask you this. Are you in a season of sowing where you feel hidden but you are being prepared? A season of pruning where God is cutting things off that you thought were part of you? Are you in a wilderness where everything feels dry, quiet and uncertain? Or are you in harvest where things are finally aligning? You see, there is something freeing about realizing that you are not failing, but you are just in a season. But if you don't know the season you're in, you will fight what God is trying to use to form you. If part 1 opened your eyes to the truth that life moves in divine seasons, then this part 2 is about opening your spirit to discern the one you're in right now. Because knowing you're in a season isn't enough. Let's walk through 4 spiritual seasons many of us will experience more than once in our lives. Season number 1, the season of sowing, or the season of preparation. You see, this is the season of building foundations, laying seeds in faith with little to no visible return. Psalm 126 verse 5 says, "He who sows in tears shall reap in joy." That is a hidden season right there. Let's take Noah for an example. He built the ark for decades without seeing a drop of rain. Obedience in the dark, that is sowing. Season number 2, the season of pruning, or the season of refinement. This is when God removes things and sometimes people that aren't bearing fruit. It feels like loss, but it's actually divine alignment. John 15:2 says, "Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, that it may bear much fruit." This is when the productive gets pruned, not the lazy ones. Let's take Gideon for an example. God told him to reduce his army from 32,000 to 3,000, not because he was weak though, but because he was ready to win God's way. You see, if you're being pruned, it's not because you're failing, it's because God sees more in you. Season number 3, the season of wilderness, or the season of testing and trust. This season tests your trust, your obedience, and your identity. Matthew 4:1 says, Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tested. People of God, the wilderness is not the devil's doing. Sometimes it's the Spirit's leading. Let's take Joseph for an example. He went from a dreamer in a coat to a prisoner in a pit. But in the prison, God was shaping the leader who would save nations. Just because you're hidden doesn't mean you're forgotten. God does his deepest work even in the desert. Season number 4, the season of harvest, or the season of reward and visibility. This is the season of answered prayers, visible favor, and multiplied fruit. It doesn't come by luck, it comes by process. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest." Harvest is not just blessing, it's responsibility. It's when what was private now becomes public. David, for an example, was an anointed king as a teen, but didn't sit on the throne for years. Yet when his season came, all of Israel recognized the grace that had always been on him. You see, just because your crown isn't visible yet doesn't mean you haven't been anointed. What season are you in right now? Are you sowing in silence? Are you being pruned in secret? Are you walking through a wilderness, or are you just stepping into a harvest? Whatever season you are in, don't compare it to someone else's chapter. God is never late. I know you may even be asking yourself, how does God actually work in seasons? I'll tell you, but let's begin with this truth. You see, God is not just working on your situation, He's working on you in the situation. Let's look at 3 powerful ways He moves through time. The first way is actually through breakthroughs that come instantly. In Acts chapter 2, the Holy Spirit descended like a rushing wind. Tongues of fire appeared. Power fell. Peter preached, and 3,000 souls were saved in one day. This was sudden, but not random. They had been waiting and praying in the upper room, obeying Jesus' instruction. But you see, sudden moments are often the result of sustained obedience. Let me say that again. Sudden moments are often the results of sustained obedience. What looks like an overnight power actually often comes after an upper room persistence. You need to be persistent. Number 2, some breakthroughs come eventually. God promised Abraham a son, but 25 years passed before Isaac was born. Let me do the maths for you. That's 2.5 decades of waiting. Hebrews 6:15 says, after he had patiently endured, he obtained the promise. But here's the thing. Abraham's wait wasn't a waste. It was a work of faith. You see, sometimes the waiting room is the proving ground of your trust. God didn't just give Abraham a child, He made him the father of many nations. But before the promise, He had to build a man in Abraham. I hope someone is catching this. Number 3, some breakthroughs are generational. Hebrews 11:13. These all died in faith, not having received the promise, but having seen them afar off. They lived with expectations, even if the fulfillment was beyond their lifetime. This kind of faith says, even if I don't see it, I will still sow into it. Some promises are too big. They take more than one lifetime to unfold. David, for instance, dreamed of building the temple, but Solomon completed it. You see, you may not finish what you're actually called to start, but your obedience still plants the seed. In part 3, we are going even deeper into the practical steps for navigating challenging seasons and what is the importance of timing in God's plan. Don't miss it. This episode continues, and your clarity is closer than you think. Don't stop here. Your season deserves to be understood.